or second to last play of the game, actually. And Giants going to win that game, and we'd be talking completely different about the performance of Daniel Jones yesterday, because that's the kid that we saw at Duke. That's the kid that stood in there against all those better teams that he played against in college. That's the kid that took off and didn't trip when he ran with the football. That's the kid who, was making quick decisions, getting the ball out quickly. He's a guy that, they had 2 touchdowns basically essentially taken off the board. And it's unfortunate that it happened that way. And I know that the fact that now there's, 5 years in a row where they've started 0-2, the world stinks according to the Giant fans. Believe me, I woke up this morning, my text messages were all blown up and all the problems and, oh, my God, my team sucks and everything
Well, can you blame them?
I know I can't blame them, but I can also look at it from a different perspective. Now, I'm just saying if I were on the team and I were playing on that team, I'd be sick to my stomach coming back home last night thinking about all the opportunities that we just let it get away from us, and including what happened with Dexter Lawrence at the end of the game. I mean, the game is over. They have the game won, and he jumps off sides. And it's a really unfortunate, and I don't think Joe Judge is going to put it on his, on his big defensive tackle's back that they lost, because everybody made mistakes somewhere along the line. Bradbury didn't play great. I can tell you that there are some drop passes. I'm sure that Daniel Jones would like a couple passes back. Saquon's not really Saquon. He had the one long run after that, nothing. It looks like he is favoring his knee, if you ask me. But, there's a lot of great things that came out of this game. And I know that the team lost. And, the outside world can come down on the Giants and have at it, everybody. I'm just trying to give you from a perspective on the other side, inside the building. And a couple of things happened last night that I thought were really telltale, that some I'm really happy about, and one in particular I'm just totally ticked off about. The things that I'm really happy about. I'm happy about Sterling Shepard. I'm happy about Daniel Jones. I'm happy about the creativity that Jason Garrett showed last night with his offensive game plan calling. I don't like the fact that, when they got the ball late in the game and had that great field position, they kind of sat on the ball. And they allowed Washington to use their timeouts. And then that ultimately puts Washington back into a situation where they can win with a field goal. I don't like the fact that he didn't go for 2 when they were up 19-17 or 18-17, whatever, 19-17. There were a number of things that happened that I didn't like. But the one thing that really pissed me off more than anything, and I didn't think that this particular player was like this. I never got
Kenny Galladay.
I never got any sort of inclination that this guy was this big of a pain in the ass on the sideline.
Same here. I don't think anybody saw. I didn't watch every Lions game, but he didn't have that reputation coming here.
He's sitting there. I thought, first of all, the way it looked like last night on TV, I thought he was screaming at the trainer or the equipment manager working on his helmet.
Daniel Jones.
Meanwhile, he's screaming at Daniel Jones, and I'm like, what in the F are you doing, man?
And it didn't look like it was one of those Tom Brady screaming on the sidelines, let's go, pick it up. It wasn't one of those. It looked like it was a chastising, come on, man, you're not doing good enough. This isn't good enough type of thing from a guy who's been here for 5 minutes and basically didn't have a preseason because he was hurt.
Dude, I've never played with a guy like that, so I wouldn't know how I would react to something like that. I would probably do what Daniel did and just try to downplay it and just not let it get into my head and all this other stuff. But Daniel's still a young kid trying to find his way.
Wait a second. Hold on. I'm sorry. I know you now pretty well. If one of your wide receivers in a game that you were playing that well, a guy who just got here, a guy who has dropped some passes and in the preseason was non-existent, got in your face on the sideline, you wouldn't just sit there and take it. Boomer Esiason?
I think I would say something either at halftime or after the game was over.
Well, yeah, after the game, you wouldn't say anything to the media, but you'd clap back at that.
I know, but I don't know if I would do it on the sideline. Is what I'm saying, because as the quarterback, you got to be bigger than everything else that's going on around you, and you got to be able to handle whatever's coming your way. This is like and I don't know what Kenny's explanation is going to be. I didn't read anything this morning, and I'm sure they'll be asking him again. But I'm just like, What a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, do I need this crap from you now? I'm dealing with everything else. We got a patchwork offensive line. We lost one of our best offensive linemen. Have you seen their defensive line? Have you seen the pressure that we're dealing with? And you're out there running around dropping balls, and you have the balls to come over here and start screaming at me?
Right, and think about how much better Daniel Jones' night would have been if Slayton catches the ball when he's wide open for a touchdown. If you don't have that run for a touchdown called back because of the holding penalty. I mean, Daniel Jones, this was one of the best games he ever played.
This is the kid that they saw at Duke. This is finally the kid where the light went on. And, he had a couple balls where if he would have been a little bit more accurate, I think the players that he was throwing it to, especially Sterling Shepard, probably could have made a couple runs after the catch. But, at the end of the day, the ball was completed. He was getting the ball out. He was processing things. He was going through his reads. And I can't say enough about this offensive line played their ass off against one of the best defensive lines in football. Now, they had 163 yards running, and a lot of that was, the great play design and also Daniel Jones reading the defensive end and keeping the ball and taking off. And, it makes me sick they lost.
Yeah.
And I'm not even a Giant fan. I wanted them to win last night. I picked them to win last night, and I just thought that this was his best game by far. One of his best games. I don't know. You'd have to look back. Maybe it was rookie year. He probably had one or two games that were probably just as good. I mean, if this kid plays like this,
yeah.
I mean, they got something.
That's the encouraging part. But the really discouraging part is this was the year that they needed to learn how to win. How many of these games did the Giants have last year where they were competitive and it was a one-score game and they were playing teams that they were big underdogs against? They weren't a huge underdog last night, but they were 3.5 points. And they played them tough. And you said, man, look at this team. They're taking a step forward. And they still come into this year not knowing how to win, not knowing how to finish, and mistakes all over the place. I mean, last year, one of the things you could have said about Joe Judge's team that you can't say this year is that they were disciplined in 2020. They're completely undisciplined.
The penalties.
I mean, it's horrible. I mean, even him with his decision-making with the week one, and then you see guys with penalties all over the place and pre-snap stuff and delay a game, and then he's got, has to call a timeout because he's got too many men on the field, and then out of a timeout, they have to take a delay a game penalty. It's like, what the hell happened to that part of, Joe Judge is buttoned up New England special teams coach. He's going to do the thing the right way. I mean, they're sloppy as hell.
Well, there were a lot of penalties called on Washington, too. I mean, it was a penalty-filled game last night. And, I hate the holding penalty on board. I just hate that. And I also think that if you sat down Daniel Jones and, the touchdown that everybody's claiming that Slayton dropped the ball, he should have laid out for it is what he should have done. But I think if you really ask Daniel Jones, he'll probably tell you, I would have liked to thrown it a little bit better, not as far. He got hit as he was throwing the ball, so it's not like he had like the perfect situation to be able to deliver the strike that he wanted to. It was a good throw. It could have been a better throw. I think a little bit, underthrown would have been better because he was so wide open. But I don't know. The thing is, I come out of this game so infuriated by some of the things that you see, but I also come out of the game thinking, man, if this quarterback is going to play this way, they got something special. But
what about the defense, though? Because they have been carved up.
That's a whole nother story. Now, do you remember, and I'm not saying that the Giants are going to be this team, but I remember the year that they went to the Super Bowl, the second game of the season, they go down to Washington and they get absolutely slammed. And I think they gave up 80 points in the first two games. That was Steve Spagnuolo who was here as the defensive coordinator.
Talking about 2007.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. And then all of a sudden they kind of turned it around. Maybe this will happen this week against the Atlanta Falcons or next week against the Atlanta Falcons. But it is frustrating. I know it's maddening to be 0-2. But, this is a game that not many people thought the Giants were going to win. A lot of people thought, hey, 3.5, Washington's going to be favored. I guess the biggest problem that I see over the first two games is that you've had what you would consider middling quarterbacks beat you.
Well, yeah.
You've had Teddy Bridgewater and Taylor Heineke. Maybe Taylor Heineke turns out to be better than we all think he is because he played his ass off last night.
Okay, but he also threw a horrible interception late in the game that should have lost them the game.
That was a great play by Bradbury.
It was.
And then the next question after that would be, okay, the Giants ran, pass.
Well, I don't have a problem with the philosophy in that situation, all things equal. The problem I have was they couldn't run the ball all night. They had one big play from Saquon Barkley. I think it was like the first play of the game. They got 5 yards on his first run. Then they had the 41-yard run. Then after that, he was terrible. The whole run game was terrible.
Well, then it was all Daniel Jones.
So you might as well take a knee at that point because you couldn't gain any ground on the ground. So that's the problem that I had.
They're going to be kicking themselves in the ass this morning, man. They're going to be looking at this tape. Now it's
a million different things if it had gone a different way.
Let's just we are so over the top negative. I just want to think about let's just say Dexter Lawrence doesn't jump offside, and Hopkins misses that field goal, and we come in here this morning and they're 1-1.
I would say, that Daniel Jones really stepped up when he needed to. The offensive line even losing one, Nick Gates with a broken leg and being able to stop that pass rush. All that is great. And now what they need to do with this longer time before the Falcons is to work on that defense to get better.
Pass rush, yes,
and then maybe you got some. That's what I'd be saying. But the problem is undisciplined play. They did lose the game. The defense is a big problem. They're 0-2 again. And the dream of making the postseason is now even more of a dream and a fantasy probably because of the way the schedule lays out. I mean, they lost to Teddy Bridgewater and Taylor Heineke, and the defense looked terrible. When they run through that stretch of really good quarterbacks, and I don't know if Matt Ryan is done or not, but it starts next week. And then you're going Jameis after what he did in week 1 and Dak Prescott and Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. I mean, how in the hell Matt Stafford? I mean, how in the hell are they going to be able to compete if this is what the Giants' defense is?
I told you, man, you just got to take it once at a time. We can look at the future, and we always do. We look at schedules and things of that nature. But I was just thinking about how Daniel Jones has been kind of like, I thought he played good against Denver except for the fumble. And I thought he played great last night. There were a couple balls I think he would have liked to have had back to be a little bit more accurate with. But the running ability, just the athleticism, the arm strength is there. I mean, every aspect of what you want is there, and you saw it last night. And I'm telling you, that's the kid that they saw at Duke. That's the kid that stood in there against Clemson and got his ass beat, but yet stood right in there and delivered the ball. And I think that is a very, very good sign. And I was really happy for him last night. I really was. The thing that really just bothers me is like the Kenny Golladay thing really bothers me because you know how the quarterback stopped playing in a phone booth for God's sake.
He also didn't play poorly.
I know, and plus he's got like Chase Young and Allen and Montez Sweat coming after him and slamming him in the ground. Yeah, and this guy's down the field dropping balls. And you're sitting here screaming at your quarterback on the side. I don't know what the hell he was screaming, but it did not look very kind.
No, it didn't. And I, like I said before, I do think that there are some guys who are animated on the sideline. We don't hear what they're saying, and it's sort of like a motivational thing. This looked like a chastising. That's what it looked like.
The other thing, too, is, again, that Terry McLaurin is a hell of a player.
Oh,
that guy is a hell of a player. But, young Joker, invisible.
Well, he's not even on the field. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. He's not even playing.
I mean, the board who gets that holding penalty on the Daniel Jones touchdown is out there, or that gets called back, the rushing touchdown. He's out on the field blocking. He's a special teams guy. That should be young Joka, I think, as a fourth wide receiver out there.
Yeah, the other nice thing is the tight end production was good last night.
Yeah.
I thought it was
without
solid
Evan
last
Ingram,
night. Without Evan Ingram, guys caught everything that was thrown to them. Kyle Rudolph made a couple nice catches.
He did.
There's a. I'm telling you, that offensive line played their ass off, especially in pass blocking. Pass blocking was, there were times where things started to collapse and Daniel was getting it out. But that's what I keep telling you. You got to get it out of there. You got to get it out of there. Take some of that pressure off your offensive line. And I thought they did a great job of that last night.
Yeah, you know what is. You look at the schedule, you say, all right, if you can get back to 2-2, that would be great. And that means you're winning a game that really no one expected you to win down in New Orleans.
But somewhere there'll be a game that they'll win that nobody expected.
Right, but then you don't want to get buried, though. But that Saints game, if I'm not mistaken, is the first game back at the Superdome since the hurricane. Do you remember the first game back at the Superdome after Katrina?
I was there.
Okay. So you know exactly. It may not be like that because Katrina did more damage to New Orleans. Not that Ida didn't do damage, it did major damage to New Orleans, but Katrina did even more damage, and it took, basically they didn't play there for a year in the Superdome.
Well, they didn't play for a year, and they came back, and the
Steve Gleason and the block punt
against,
I think it was against the Falcons. It was against Atlanta.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
So there's going to be a lot of emotion in that game.
Well, just worry about the next game. You can't worry about that game until you get to it.
Yeah, but I'm not on the team.
Yeah, well, I'm just telling you this is how they're going to approach it.
Yeah.
Hey, look, there's going to be slings and arrows now for 10 days. This is the worst thing about playing on a Thursday night. There's a good side and there's a bad side. The good side is that it's a short week and you're coming off of a loss. You get that bad taste out of your mouth, and hopefully you win. And then on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday you get off, and you're done. But now they're going to be off and they're going to be hearing it, and then especially Joe Judge is going to be hearing it. Bradbury's going to be hearing it. Dexter Lawrence is going to be hearing it. There's no pass rush. There's too many penalties. There's too undisciplined. There's too many drop passes.
And all of it's true.
And that's usually what happens when you lose. You tend to really, and I know why we do this. You really tend to fall back on the negative. But if I were on that team, two things that have to be straightened out. Number one, my wide receivers aren't acting like jackasses on the sideline.
Mm-hmm.
That has got to stop. That's stopping now. And enough is enough. You don't do that. There's too many cameras. You're supposed to be, we all love and hug each other. At least that's what Sterling Shepard says after the game. And then, of course, Daniel Jones has got to go, I love Kenny Golladay.
Yeah, sure.
I'm like, all right, so you love Kenny Golladay. What the hell? Why is he acting like that?
Sure. Kenny Golladay doesn't look like he loves you.
I want to hear an answer from Golladay, what he was yelling at Daniel Jones.
I didn't see anything either.
Because the next time he drops a pass, I want Daniel Jones to throw his hands up in the air, run down the field, and say, next time I throw the goddamn ball, you catch the damn thing.
Right. A-hole. That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Because that's what it looks like.
Yeah, I know. All right.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.